a brave heart, and an adventurous spirit. Both are essential to a successful stunt career. Stunt professionals face personal peril and new technical challenges every time they work. Woo! Come with us to find out how they control the risks and confront their fears. Action! We'll learn how Mel Gibson used every weapon in the stunt armory to recreate vicious medieval warfare in Braveheart.
Oh, that's some piece of work.
We'll venture behind the scenes on the James Bond blockbuster GoldenEye as Pierce Brosnan's double takes a 40-ton tank on a destructive joyride. From the science of high falls to the fiery trials of full-body burns, we'll find out what drives the adventurous professionals on Hollywood's greatest stunts. It was an epic battle for freedom. An army of fearless Scottish warriors against the mighty English forces. In the Academy Award-winning film Braveheart, Mel Gibson stars as William Wallace, the legendary 13th century Scotsman who led the fight against oppression. Gibson is also the director and producer of this sprawling historical drama.
Your friends are being hacked to pieces. They're getting war picks slammed into their helmets and half brains are falling out.
To recreate the mayhem of these historic medieval battles, Gibson has called in two top stunt coordinators. Mick Rogers, his trusted longtime stunt double, will coordinate and direct the action captured by the production's second unit. And British stuntman Simon Crane, whose work was featured in 101 Dalmatians, and Air America will help coordinate the action.
Mickey and Simon Crane were key because not only was I able to communicate exactly the kind of thing I wanted from the battles, which was kind of a staccato, very fast, very choppy cuts. More importantly, what they managed very ably to do was guarantee the safety of everyone involved.
To recreate the pivotal Battle of Stirling, the filmmakers staged dozens of complex fight scenes simultaneously.
It was just mayhem, but it had to be choreographed mayhem. Otherwise someone would have got hurt, in that we had 1,500 extras. We had 40 stuntmen, 30 specialist riders. There was a lot of people there.
Bang, bang.
And I was waiting for broken legs and broken arms and concussions and poked out eyes, and I was waiting for all this to happen, and it never happened.
Mick Rogers is a 20-year stunt veteran who started out as a teenager performing stunts in live shows. Rogers' work has appeared in such blockbusters as Twister and Maverick. He's been doubling Mel Gibson since 1987, when they met on the first Lethal Weapon film.
What are you waiting for? Leave them!
From the start, Braveheart's battle scenes were central to Gibson's vision. A vision inspired by art from the 13th century and by classic war epics of cinema history.
Mel wanted it to be a battle that like no one's ever seen before, so we watched Spartacus as probably the best example of a big battle. But we found that it was somewhat staged. We needed a lot of bodies and to be very kinetic and to be very chaotic and a real battle. Get guys from either side, that would just run in the middle of shots and knock other guys down just to screw things up because they were being too polished.
It's a little piece of cinema history. Rarely do you see this many people in a shot.
The battle scenes were shot in Ireland. The extras are mostly Irish Army volunteers, trained by Crane and Rogers to safely perform choreographed hand-to-hand combat with fearsome-looking weapons.
Every half hour we had 50 guys for 12 hours a day for 5 days. I couldn't talk anymore. I mean, you had to scream to, just to get their attention. There's so many of them.
The production's vast scale makes discipline essential. Every workday begins with costume and makeup at 4 a.m.
Get your sunscreen on, then get your dirt on. Let's go.
Rub it well in, backs of your legs, backs of your necks. Do your ears, check the guy out next door.
Action.
In the actual Battle of Stirling, as in the film, the English used their longbows to devastating effect, sending a torrent of arrows raining down on the Scots. For this shot, the special effects team has built an arrow launcher powered by compressed air. It's capable of firing up to 400 arrows at once.
The arrows are all rubber tipped, but still, if you get hit in the head with one, it hurt like hell.
The Scots fought back with their schiltrons, 14-foot-long spears used to defend against charging horses.
We have some more sticks in here, some more schiltrons.
Yep.
Recreating the shot of the horses bearing down on the schiltrons has turned out to be one of Braveheart's most complicated stunts.
You had to have a phalanx of horses descending on a crowd of guys, and you had to have the horses on skewers by the end of it. And I really wanted to do that with a tremendous impact, and I didn't quite know how to do it without hurting something or someone.
To make it look as real as possible, live animals are trained to perform the first part of the shot. Then, to complete the action, the filmmakers came up with an ingenious solution.
We had several mechanical horses made. Horses on tracks fired with air cylinders that weighed like 150 pounds. So, you could throw it on a couple of guys. It was like a bag of wheat.
All right, the track is now live, so keep off the track.
The mechanical horses go from 0 to 30 miles per hour on 20 feet of track.
We had the 3 mechanical horses working. We had 7 fallen horses, like 5 guys on saddle falls.
It works perfectly, almost too well, in fact.
At one point, we had the animal rights people really on my case about what I did to this horse. I said I used a faker, but he wouldn't believe me because he'd seen the film and he was convinced that we'd used a real horse.
The star and his stunt team met Braveheart's every challenge with uniquely adventurous solutions. For this fiery scene, a network of propane gas pipes has been buried in the battlefield. The stuntmen, including both Mick Rogers and Simon Crane, are treated with fire-retardant gel. Then the underground propane jets are switched from a low, safe setting to full blast.
All right, roll cameras. Roll cameras. Background action. Get those background guys moving.
One has a picture in one's head about what you want to see. You collaborate with the stunt guys to see what they can bring to it, and they always bring something. I mean, they're natural-born showmen, so that they come to the party with as many tricks as they can offer you.
After a decade as Gibson's double, Rogers has become the star's trusted friend and a valued cinematic talent in his own right.
He'll tell a story with a stunt, but he's a smart guy, which is like what it takes. You gotta have the brains to do it, and then you gotta have the guts to do it.
The Rogers and Crane coordinating team worked perfectly.
We both took turns in performing, so I did quite a lot of the fire stuff, and I did one thing for Mel when he jumps the horse from the castle.
I was really impressed with him. The stunts were great. He executed the stunts really professional, didn't get hurt, laughed it off, shrugged it off. I'm very proud of him.
It took every ounce of courage, determination, and ingenuity, but the Braveheart team succeeded in bringing medieval mayhem to the big screen on an unprecedented scale. Two jets cruising side by side, 3 miles above the Rocky Mountains.
Tango, Tango, did the plane, I'm coming over.
British stuntman Simon Crane has been rehearsing this uniquely risky stunt for months.
If something went wrong, it was then very, very dangerous. Other things you could do.
Several factors made this stunt especially dangerous. Both planes must travel at exactly 150 miles per hour. Any slower, and the larger DC-9 will stall. Any faster, and the force of the wind would likely pull Crane's limbs from his torso. At this altitude, oxygen is scarce, making every breath an effort. Because of the wind chill factor, the temperature is a muscle-numbing 90 degrees below zero. Crane's face has to be covered in a specially designed prosthetic mask to combat the extreme cold. In case anything should go wrong, he's carrying 2 concealed parachutes, especially if Crane has suffered an injury during the attempt. Despite its unplanned finish, the stunt resulted in one of Cliffhanger's most spectacular scenes. But Crane wasn't fully satisfied.
I would definitely do that stunt again, in that we know what went wrong on the actual shoot.
The crucial mistake occurred when the crew in the Jetstar failed to grab hold of the heavy rope hanging from Crane's harness.
They missed the weight they were meant to catch. We should have aborted then, and that wouldn't happen again. And so I would definitely 100% do it again.
Crane is a respected all-round stunt professional whose work has appeared in such movies as Total Recall and Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. He has also performed or coordinated stunts for no fewer than 3 James Bond blockbusters. For Crane, inheriting the legacy of 007's spectacular stunt tradition is an honor.
You're doubling one of the #1 action heroes of our time.
Action.
They're a stuntman's dream, in that you get to play with lots of toys, go to lots of different locations, and dream up great stunts.
Stand by, Simon, stand by. And stand up, Simon, stand up.
But as he found out working on this chase sequence for the climax of License to Kill, living up to 3 decades of Bond history can be physically challenging.
Round again.
For the scene in which Bond hijacks an oil tanker, Crane rides on the back of a speeding truck under heavy aerial attack.
There's a lot of pressure with James Bond films to come up with new ways of doing things.
After the star, Timothy Dalton, steps in for his close-ups on top of the truck, the final edited sequence proves that the pressure is worthwhile. As a stunt coordinator as well as performer, Crane is often responsible for planning a film's stunt action. Among his many other coordinating credits, Crane was the brains behind Pierce Brosnan's stunt-packed debut as Bond in GoldenEye. In one of the film's most memorable sequences, 007 pursues his enemies through the streets of St. Petersburg in a Russian T-55 tank. To accomplish this, Crane sets up a complex series of stunts involving dozens of vehicles.
We had 3 months rehearsing with the tanks before we were ever going to shoot. I didn't want just a tank turning round a corner or you know, turning right or left and just driving over things. A stunt driver just has got that bit of panache that if he goes round a corner, he'll slide it round the corner. If anything had gone wrong, the tank can't stop all that quickly. We were using a lot of cars and a lot of people in close proximity to the tank, and so that was a danger in itself.
It takes 8 cameras to capture the action. And over 8 weeks to film the entire complex sequence. The speed and position of every vehicle is critical.
Now that pops up onto the pavement.
Every collision is carefully rehearsed and executed. In this scene, the statue has been rigged with an interior wiring system to stop it from collapsing when the tank hits. It's then bolted to the top of the tank, which trundles off toward the scene's destructive finale. From start to finish, the action-packed scene works flawlessly on the big screen. Bringing a cinematic hero to life, or performing heroic stunts of his own design, Simon Crane combines the daring spirit and technical expertise that helps Hollywood pump up its action scenes to intense new heights. "530 feet above the streets of Sydney, Guy Norris, one of Australia's most accomplished stuntmen, prepares for the highest fall he's ever attempted. Norris is an internationally respected stunt veteran who has performed and coordinated stunts in more than 50 films. This monumental jump is being staged for a British commercial in which a man swan dives from the top of a 43-story building. But the dizzying height is only one of the problems the stunt team faces.
There was a lot of work to be done. We had to bring a rigging crew both from the United States and from Canada. They also brought out a descending system for us, and we had to be able to manufacture and build an entire rigging structure that we had to take to the top of the building. Our problems were that it all had to fit in an 8-foot elevator, and we weren't actually allowed to put any bolts into the top of the building at all.
The rig will have to be held in place by barrels filled with water. Lane Levitt, head of Hollywood stunt technology company Levitation Inc., is overseeing this unprecedented leap. The stunt relies on a device called a descender, which works like a giant fishing reel, precisely controlling the rate at which the stuntman falls.
We can do a fall any speed we want, from full speed to half speed to just basically crawling down the side of a building. We can start the slowdown anytime we want. It's just so adjustable. That's why the descender was such a remarkable breakthrough.
The descender relies on wind resistance to slow the fall. By varying the size of the fans on one end of the device, the speed of the stuntman can be controlled. Bigger fans mean more wind resistance and therefore a slower fall. The descender has never been used for this high a jump before. The team must carefully assess the physical demands it will place on the system of pulleys and cables.
So what we're going to do now, we're going to lower it back down.
Yeah.
And then rewind it up.
Yeah.
Ready to do
And we'll treat it as like a full rehearsal.
It will be.
It's a tense moment for Norris, whose highest previous leap is only 150 feet.
When you're standing on top of a 150 foot building or cranes or anything else, you're there and it's high, but it's not that bad. When you're standing on top of a 400 or 500 foot building in this case, the whole perception is very different. The whole world seems to curve below you.
The descender has revolutionized high fall stunts, which for years relied primarily on airbags.
We've had more deaths and injuries on airbags in the past few years than any other piece of hardware.
The highest fall possible using an airbag is around 300 feet. With a descender, the only limit is the length of the cable. For this commercial, the team has brought in one of the biggest descenders in the world, one of only a few large enough to handle a 530-foot plunge. Meticulous preparation is essential. The wire must be well oiled and carefully reeled onto the machine. One snag could produce a sharp jolt, capable of throwing the stuntman into the building.
Back up. Okay.
To keep the plummeting stuntman at a safe distance from the skyscraper, a diving board is set up 8 feet over the edge of the roof. A test bag takes the first of many trial dives.
1, 2, 3.
The tests are analyzed in detail, the crew looking for any sign of potential problems. By dousing the test bag with water and watching the drips fall down the side of the building, the team sees if wind turbulence will affect Norris's drop.
At least half the drop, the water falls directly down, and then it moves slightly to our right as we look over the edge of the building, that is to the south.
After careful consideration, the crew elects to proceed, deciding that the shifting breeze shouldn't pose any danger to Norris.
Stand by! 3, 2, 1, action!
After weeks of preparation, the stunt is over in seconds. It's too quick for the crew to notice that an unexpected gust of wind nearly threatened Norris's safety.
About 2/3 of the way down the building, the wind whipped around the bottom, actually blew me back into the building, and I remember very specifically just turning and pushing off the building with one of my hands and then going back into being a high dive position.
In the hands of the experts, devices like the descender make almost any fall possible. But ultimately, the most exciting stunt action depends on the expertise and courage of professionals like Guy Norris. It was Jimmy Cagney who said, "Only good stuntmen grow old." If so, then Harvey Perry, who battled with Cagney in films like Strawberry Blonde, has to be one of the best ever. Before he died at age 85, Perry appeared in more than 600 movies. His 55-year career stretched from the trailblazing days of the early cinema through to the modern era when he worked on epic action pictures like Earthquake, In 1923, when these scenes from the Monty Banks comedy Play Safe were shot, movie making was a relatively primitive art. All the action in the wide shots had to be performed for real by Harvey Perry, including facing down an oncoming train. That's Perry. That's the actor Monty Banks. The word stuntman had yet to be coined when this former diver, boxer, and circus performer fell into the job almost by accident. Perry gave this description of those early times.
The extras would sit outside the old Paramount studio and they'd shoot craps and play cards. The casting director would come out and say, "Anybody want to make $10? The guy would go up there and maybe jump off this building. So he'd jump, you know. If he made it, fine. If he didn't, he got free room and board in the hospital for a while."
Not surprisingly, Perry had his share of injuries. In the silent drama 11th Hour, he completed a 140-foot high dive. He broke a world record, but also broke 3 ribs. But learning from their mistakes allowed pioneers like Perry to make stunts safer for today's performers.
Any man who takes a chance stunting today is a fool. Today, movie stunts are a business of careful preparation. You plan ahead and you know exactly what you're going to do and how you're going to do it before you do it.
In the 1920s, Harold Lloyd was the most daring of the silent era's slapstick superstars. Lloyd was legendary for doing his own stunts, but in fact, Harvey Perry performed many parts of the riskiest scenes. In the 1921 comedy Never Weaken, it's Perry who dangled above the city streets. Lloyd stepped in for the closer and relatively safer shots. Like most stunt professionals throughout cinema history, Perry was content to remain anonymous.
I doubled Harold. And every precaution that I wanted in climbing buildings and so forth, any protection I wanted, I could have. The only thing I couldn't have was publicity, which was all right with me. I didn't care. What did it mean to me? Nothing. I never mentioned I doubled Harold Lloyd until Harold passed on.
At 5 foot 6 inches and 122 pounds, Perry was small enough to stand in for female stars like Mary Pickford, whom he doubled in Little Lord Fauntleroy. At the time, there were few, if any, stunt women. But by the 1930s, female stunt performers were appearing more often. One of the most successful was Mary Wiggins, also a former diver and aviator who often worked with Perry. In this 1940s featurette, the pair teamed up to demonstrate their talents.
What do you want, Mary?
Watch this.
You watch this.
Perry was still performing in the early 1980s in films like Raging Bull and Johnny Dangerously. His amazing resilience still inspires awe in today's stunt community.
When you see Harvey Perry, who was 80 years old, doing a car head, you know, it's kind of hard to thump your chest and say, hey, I'm a stunt guy. You know, look, this guy's 80 years old, and I just saw him do a car head. It's like, you know, kind of puts you in your place.
He worked right up until a few months before his death in 1985, and his groundbreaking bravery, captured forever on film, remains an inspiration today. In the high desert east of Los Angeles, stunt coordinator Scotty Coyote is planning a stunt called a Slide for Life. The stunt gets its name because it's traditionally been used as an emergency escape technique. But for the closing scenes of the action-adventure Deadly Ransom, Coyote is planning a slide with a deadly difference.
I'll be inverted as opposed to just hanging from the cable. and shooting an AK-47 fully automatic on the way down. So it kind of makes it more challenging. Anytime you add another moving part to a stunt, you're adding another variable, right? And now you're making it more complicated. So it gets more dangerous. The risk goes up.
Perfect.
Coyote is a former kickboxer who specializes in high falls.
How did it look over there? Did we get enough speed coming through this way?
His stunt work has appeared in such movies and TV shows as Batman and Robin and Walker, Texas Ranger. To ensure a smooth ride, Coyote and his master rigger Alan Robinson check and double-check every connection.
What's dangerous about this particular stunt is that it's a little longer than normal, and it's much steeper than you normally do. So we have to incorporate a braking system into it. We put the brake on, brake provides friction on the cable. We'll be hooking up a second trolley behind this cable where the cameraman will be mounted in.
Coyote, and for some shots his cameraman, will drop it up to 25 miles per hour from a height equivalent to a 20-story building.
90% of what happens is really has to be credited to Alan. I put a lot of my trust into my master rigger.
The tension of the wire is crucial.
3, 2, 1. Stop. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Okay, that's it. We're gonna get.
If it's too tight, Coyote's landing will be rough.
And then lower down.
That's gonna be mega speed, 'cause that's taut. See that?
Right.
It's a straight line.
Too loose, and he won't make it all the way down.
Uh-oh. Are we stuck?
After several more practice runs, the team finally gets the tension it needs.
It looks cool from where I am. With you upside down, with a tack, with a gun going off, it's going to look really cool.
Alan, this is JJ. We're clear with the rope.
Boom, hit the deck.
Deadly Ransom's star and producer Lauren Avedon discusses last-minute safety details with his longtime stunt double, Coyote.
The biggest concern is the trajectory of a hot shell coming out.
Okay.
And we just turned the gun for that.
After the meticulous preparation, the cameras are in position.
We're clear, Jesus.
The gun loaded.
Roll sound. Roll camera. Hey.
Hey, speed. Hey, Mark. That guy up there has
Roll
the
camera
high
B.
speed.
Action. Excellent job, guys. Excellent job.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Another key scene for Deadly Ransom presents Coyote with a different kind of danger.
You know, that when you roll the fire wrap.
Come out here.
The full body burn. This time, he's doubling for another character, a firebomber who gets blown up by his own bomb.
Boom, boom.
The stunt will turn Coyote into a human torch.
Mr. First AD, I need 3 CO2 fire extinguishers. I also need to know who is the emergency vehicle. All right? Make sure that car is not blocked. He knows where he's going, and he's ready to go.
Director wants to know if you're going to be firing a weapon while you're on fire.
There's 2 pairs of gloves on. It wouldn't go through the trigger finger. Bro, can you do me a favor and ask the DP how far we're out, how long he's going to be?
Okay, can you help while I'm prepping the next one? Spot them and help pull up your legs here.
Coyote wears 3 layers of clothing made from a flame-retardant material called Nomex.
Oh man, and this is cold as ice.
It's kept at freezing temperatures to maximize its heat-resistant capabilities.
Oh, baby. This is cold in my hand.
Okay.
Every inch of exposed skin is smeared with fire retardant gel.
95% of the stun is the prep, and if the prep is 100%, then the burn goes well. The more you focus, the less emotion you have. And of course, for my martial arts training, I've tried to learn to focus as much as I can and not have any emotion while you're doing something like this. That focus, that zoning out, really helps. It helps everything.
Hey, right arm. Can I put a little bit more in here?
I have to see where I'm going. So that's the biggest danger, is burning the eyes and eyelids.
I don't want to send you any of these puppies. Like I'm gonna light you. Okay, looking good.
Well, it's starting to look good.
From the time I paint them down with the fuel and the light them, there's about a 15-second window. That's when we should be ready to roll.
With the cameras ready, Robinson douses Coyote with fuel.
Camera's ready, so we're ready to go. Everybody stand still.
And action. Wait, hold on.
Great. Lit up the sky, bro. Just trying to get this
Nice work, Scotty.
The painstaking preparations have paid off. Coyote survives the flames unharmed.
You're still smoldering in the back there.
Scotty Coyote and Alan Robinson prove that it takes teamwork and trust, as well as courage and skill, to be a stunt professional.